fired up.
4th down and goal from the 9. 17 seconds to go. The play clock at 3. Shotgun snap. Carr throws into traffic. Intercepted. Jermaine Pratt has the football.
Yeah.
Coffin nails.
Bam, bam, bam. How about that? It ends on a turnover.
Joe Burrow takes the snap. He takes a knee. And after 31 years, the drought is over. It is no fluke. It is a fact. The Cincinnati Bengals are headed to Super Bowl 56.
Welcome back. I'm here, joined as always by the self-proclaimed producer in the city, and Jeff Howell. It is another episode of Pardon the Punctuation, brought to you by Bearcat Journal. And here we are. The NFL draft is over after the week ever for your Cincinnati Bearcats. The last 7 or so days have been absolutely insane, but we will get that. We'll get to that later on. What's going on with my mic, guys? I don't know. You're all on mute.
I'm trying to figure if that's yours. I think it's yours.
What's going on with it? I don't know.
Oh, hold on. Now it seems to be fixed a little bit.
All right, fair enough. Well, the Bengals though, they had their NFL draft this weekend, and we bring in Dave Simone and the Bengalorian for the first time on our show. Sans helmet. He does have it with him, but he is chosen to opt out of wearing it. You have been a little more open with showing your face as of the last, I don't know, 3 months or so. But welcome your face to the show. So Dave, we had you on right before the draft. About 2 weeks prior, I think it was.
Yeah, something like that. 2-3 weeks before.
And Jeff took the liberty to go back and listen to the entirety of the conversation, so that he could check you on what actually happened versus what your predictions were that happened. And I'll let him take it away.
There's a reason that we chose to do our pre-draft show with Dave, because he's a lot smarter about that stuff than we are. We'll just go down kind of the list. This was the order in which we fired the names off, so it wasn't like anything else. Ritter, he did say he thought Ritter would go in. He was a little more hyped on Ritter going in the first round. Obviously, that things in the draft kind of went a little funny for quarterbacks, and he didn't go till the 3rd round. Sauce, the only thing he said was he would be surprised if he dropped past the Giants at 7, which obviously that didn't happen. So he's correct there. First. Ford, he called Ford in the 5th round. He had Pierce going in the 3rd round. He went in the 2nd round. Beavers, he had going in the 2nd round and didn't go till the 6th.
That was a miss.
That was a miss. Bryant, he had in the 4th. Also, he went in the 4th.
He went in the Sorry,
yeah.
that was Cook.
Yep.
Very beginning of the 4th.
Cook, he had in the 3rd, and he went in the 2nd. So, that's pretty good there. Sanders, he had in the 4th. He went in the 3rd. And really the only big miss that I would say was huge was he did not see Brooks being drafted.
Yeah, that
snuck
was
in the 6th.
Before Pro Day and before everybody kind of came around on him. And I do have when we get to Dez, I have a little bit of a theory on that one as well.
I mean, I wouldn't even say that Brooks was a big miss, because you undrafted 6th round, that's still pretty close. So you were, really, you were within a round on most of them. Several of them you hit right on, and then Beavers 2nd to 6th.
Yeah, that was bad. But
team needs here and there and things, the way the draft developed, it is what it is. And then
and we will get to plenty of breaking down the Bearcats draft picks. But as we do have Bengalorian here on a little bit of a time schedule, I do want to make sure that we cover the Bengals before we get into the Bearcats discussion. So first round, the Bengals at 31. It took a long ass time to get there.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did.
The first round is
it's a different feeling when you're not picking fifth or higher.
Yeah.
Especially if you were watching along with us.
and I don't know if you guys saw this today, but apparently the Detroit Lions got in trouble not once but twice for having turned in their picks too early.
Yeah, I saw that.
Well, I know their first pick, like as soon as Trayvon Walker went 1, it was almost like instantaneous that they went on the clock and it said like the pick is in.
Yeah, under a minute is what they clocked him at, and the NFL was like, "Hey, hold on, slow down. We got a show to do here."
They're like, we got a 4-hour television show. We can't be doing this.
That's their fault.
Yeah,
I'm
That's the
here
way the
for
draft
it.
should go.
I agree.
You know,
Enough of Chris Angel suspended from a rope in a straight jacket.
I need to give her full credit for this idea. Commissioner Yaz, who some people know on Twitter as this big Bengal fan, she had the idea, and I absolutely love it, that the draft should just not stop. It should continue on. The second round just goes at midnight, and you're picking players at 3:00 in the morning. I think it would be amazing to watch.
Yeah.
See, like if teams get delirious and like pick wrong guys, if they forget it's their pick, and then you wake up Saturday morning and it's like, welcome, it's the 4th round of the NFL draft.
Yeah.
Zach Taylor by round 3 is.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, weirdly, I think the like staffs might actually like it to like just get it all over with and not have to like end it, come back the next day, and
because I'm sure they're not sleeping. Like they're still doing plenty of prep. Like they're all just running on like I don't know whatever medicine it is that's not completely suspect at this point.
I just think it would be hilarious to like be an insomnia. Like, cause me, I'm just addicted to the draft. Like, I probably wouldn't sleep. I would just watch the whole thing through the entire night.
Dude, I would love that to happen. Like I like when the Open Championship plays because I can get up in the middle of the night to watch golf.
Dude, Jeff,
So
as a huge golfer that I am, growing up, that's why it was my favorite tournament. Because like I'd be like, I can get up at like 5:00 in the morning and watch golf.
It's awesome. I love doing that. So I would watch the draft all through the night. Some midnight madness. I'd probably smoke like a pork butt while I was watching it in middle of the night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good idea.
Then the NFL though, then they lose out on money, and you know how they are with their money.
That's why
That's true.
They changed it from Saturday Sunday. They have to make everything its own day, its own more money making thing.
I don't know what's happening in that comment. So the Bengals in the first round, when it finally got to the 31st pick, and we're damn not like none of us are accustomed for the Bengals picking this late in the first round. Like this is unknown, uncharted waters for
latest they've ever picked.
Yeah.
But in the first round at number 31 overall, the defensive back Daxton Hill out of Michigan, who comes in as a safety, as a slot corner. They say that he could potentially even play outside corner. Some people are calling this maybe the steal of the first round. So I can't imagine that he's starting. I can't imagine that you're drafting Daxton Hill to come in as a starter, knowing what our cornerback room looks like, especially at that slot spot with Mike Hilton already there, with Jesse Bates and Leon Bell there. Von Bell, sorry. So what did you guys think of the first pick that came in for the Cincinnati Bengals?
I mean, I don't know if anybody truly saw it coming, right? I mean, Booth was there. People thought maybe they'll go for him, and potentially maybe that's a reach. Who knows? But Elam had gone already to I can't remember where he went, but Buffalo or something like that. Yeah. So he was there. Dax Hill was there. They make the pick. I think the whole fan base and even the media is like, oh, what is this pick? And then a couple guys popped up saying, I love this pick. He's an athlete. He brings a a ferocious tenacity to the defensive back position that the Bengals can use. And
Fast as shit.
I don't see him coming in starting. He's going to come in, and we're going to see him rotate in the slot when guys are gassed or somebody gets hurt. I think we're going to look at our defense at some points this year and go, what the hell is that on the field? Because there's going to be 3 safeties out there in some oddball formations, and it's going to just trick everybody. Hopefully, the opposing quarterback, Kenny Pickett, and absolutely just. I just think he's going to come in and be this like Swiss Army knife out of nowhere. And honestly, I say he's not going to start, but I think he's going to play more, and I think he's going to be on the field more than fans think. I think that we're going to see Anarumo use him in some really cool packages.
It also makes it a lot easier for the Bengals next offseason, as both Jesse Bates and Von Bell are both on contract years. Sure. So you don't have to bring both back, and you have a guy learning behind 2 experienced veterans. Dave, what did you think of that pick?
I loved it. I didn't expect him to be available to them. So, like, when I was kind of building out my top 10 realistic board, like I wasn't going to put like a, Sauce Gardner in my top 10 board because it's just not realistic. So
agreed.
I had him, I want to say 5th. I had some order of George Karlaftis, Tyler Linderbaum, Devontae Wyatt, and Zion Johnson, and then Dax Hill. And so all of those guys were gone. Karlaftis went to pick before. I would have liked to have seen if Karlaftis was available, what they would have done. But so I had him as like the guy to take, just didn't expect him to be there. And I love it just because you have this, it's kind of funny. Like the Bengals have become the trendsetters in the NFL over the last 2 years, which is just an absurd thing to say given their history. But last year you take wide receiver over line, and obviously several people, nationally, locally, whatever, fans crucified them for that. That ended up working exactly how they wanted. Then this offseason, you watch teams do anything and everything possible to get wide receivers, to pay wide receivers, to trade for wide receivers, and then on Thursday night to draft wide receivers in the top 12. So what do the Bengals do? They turn around and go, okay, we started this trend on wide receivers.
Yep.
Now we're going to go and flip it on its head, and we're just going to get a bunch of DBs now because, great, you have all the wide receivers. Well, now we can cover them all. And last year, the Bengals ran almost 900 snaps with at least 6 or 7 DBs on the field, which was 2nd in the NFL. So Dax Hill is going to come in a ton of third safety stuff. He's going to come in a ton of 6 and 7 DB stuff. I'm interested to see, like, in rookie minicamp, how much because rookie minicamp is for experimenting on this whole, like, can he play outside? Because his profile says he can, but that is a far cry from actually being able to. But he's still going to play a lot because of what I said with how much versatility and how many different things they do. I mean, we saw it just in the second half of the Chiefs game. And this just shows you how much I know. I'm sitting there the first half screaming about no pressure, no pressure, no pressure. And what do is they go even beyond pressure and they drop 8 guys. So it's like, you confuse Patrick Mahomes, you confuse Andy Reid from half to half.
Confuse Dave Simone.
Well, that's not hard to do. But no, I just think and I don't even look at it necessarily from like the whole Jesse Bates angle. Like, I just think he was by far the best player on the board. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they had him in their top 10 to 15. And there weren't, I heard some teams had as low as 12 first round grades. I heard some had in like the 16 to 20 range. So let's just say give them the average of that. Say they had 15 first-round grades, and he was the 15th. And to get that at 31, like, you'd be a fool not to just draft that almost regardless of position knowing how you like to play and knowing how he fits into that. So and I thought it was a slam dunk. As soon as they got on the clock and he was there, I was like, it has to be him. Like it just none of the other guys. I like some of the other guys, but none of the other guys were to the level of player that he was.
Well, given how the first round had gone to that point with, like you said, there was that crazy run, and when we were on the ECJ channel, when who's a Drake London when he went, and Chad mentioned like this might start kind of a run on wide receivers, and I think there was a lineman taken after Drake London, and then they were
8, 10, 11, 12, 16.
And then there was just like this run on wide receiver, and it seemed like people were trading up to get them. And then when it rolled around to the Bengals, I mean, after he got picked, there was a lot of people like Aaron said he could be the steal of the first round. I mean, I'd seen, like you said, that there were teams that had him, or at least experts that had him kind of as a top 15 kind of guy. And you're getting a top 15 guy at 31 with the speed, 4.3, 840, the versatility to move from safety to slot corner, and potentially, like you said, he might be able to go out to the outside. I guess he projects that way. I don't know if he played there at all in college.
Not really, but I mean, he's got the speed, the length, the size, like the general things that you would look for. So I'm sure they're going to at least
experiment
look into
with it.
I mean, why not? But
I wouldn't expect him to be, even your first or second option there. But
no, it would be like
if you have him as depth,
like CB4.
Of course, it's a good. I mean,
at first it would be like an in a pinch type thing. But I mean, to expect him to just go out there and be fine his rookie year, like I don't think you want to do that. I think you want to put him in a position. And it could be multiple positions. I mean, they said it and he said it. Like, I want to be used in multiple ways. But I think that is basically as a third safety and in the slot where he's most comfortable. And maybe down the line, you find out that, okay, maybe this guy really can play corner. But I don't think that's something that we'll necessarily see this year unless, it's like a couple years ago when you got LaShawn Sims playing corner and like all hell's broken loose and you have to put somebody out there.
And I know some are saying he is the best defensive back out of Michigan since Desmond Howard. At least one scout saying that. So time will tell. But again, an excellent pick as far as depth goes for your secondary. And they followed that up in the second round with the 60th overall pick. They did trade up to get it, which the Bengals rarely trade up. But they jumped up from the 62nd pick and took defensive back Cam Taylor Britt out of Nebraska at 5'11". He was a team captain, played some safety early in his college career, and then moved to corner exclusively in his last 2 seasons. So, Benga, what were your thoughts as, again, another defensive back here in the second round?
I love it, man. I was a DB, so you are drafting DBs.
You were a safety, right?
I was a strong safety. Yeah. So if you're drafting DBs, you're speaking to my heart, man. He's kind of a smash mouth kind of guy too, in a way. His attitude, maybe not necessarily like linebacking, but he was cool. I don't know if you saw his interview. He was excited to go up against Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, these guys in practice, and then polish his game. And anytime you're adding to the team's, I don't want to say like glaring weakness, because I don't think we have many, to be honest, but our spot that we can improve on is a good thing. And he'll be good on the outside. He'll rotate through. He's went to the same college as Zach Taylor, so there's that little bit of a fun relationship there that's going to develop. And I think everybody we draft is going to fit right in with the boys, because we kind of got the boys mentality on this team now, and it's going to carry over into next year. And he's going to play solid, I think. He's not going to go out there. He's going to fight with Eli Apple to play, right? I don't think he'll go out there right away, but we'll have to see. I'm sure that you guys are a lot smarter than me on that stuff, but he'll get in there, and I think he'll compete with Apple. Is my kind of big thing.
He's also another speedy guy with a sub 4.4.
Really, really fast guy. If we're gonna do anything, we're gonna make everybody else tired as hell on defense.
So Dave, what was your takeaway there in the second round?
I liked Cam Taylor Britt. I felt like I like his. I think that's something that they really targeted was the back end of the defense needed to get faster, and especially when you saw this influx of receivers coming from the NFC to the AFC, and they might not even be playing all these teams, but it's just like it was like a mass exodus of good players from the NFC to the AFC this offseason. And with Taylor Britt, I kind of got this, and he was a guy that I think a lot of people had that like really study the Bengals and the way that they draft and things like that, like had kind of locked in on. And it felt like there was this run on some kind of that second round corner where after him, it was a pretty big drop where you were going to either get like a super athletic guy, but you didn't know if he could like really play corner, or you're going to get someone that's played corner in college but didn't test great or didn't run great, and come to find out, like, you know, after the fact, Louis Anarumo was talking about like length and pure speed. So like that's something to just keep in the back of your mind, like when you look at corners for draft prospects next year. But I mean, it's a weird thing to be as a Bengal fan. Is one, you're drafting in the very end of a round, and two, you're not drafting any player that you're like, this guy, we're going to draft this guy, and the second we draft him, he is starting day one, no matter how training camp goes, no matter if he shows up 1,700 pounds overweight or he's way slower than we thought he was. Like, he's starting.
You're getting BPA.
Right. We're legitimately, and BPA to me is always a little funny because, like, BPA has to mesh with needs somewhat.
Sure.
So, like, everybody knew they needed depth in the defensive backfield, and then you hope that you can take the best player available. Like, you hope that the guy that you like in your bucket of whatever second round players is also at the position that you need. You don't want to take,
which makes them trading up even more interesting because they said that this was the last one in their
I think that's
box.
what they found out, especially like in the second, maybe third, fourth round, that like their buckets were totally ravaged.
Yeah.
And they were like, the drop off from Cam Taylor Britt to that next quarter probably didn't even maybe warranted a third or maybe not even a fourth round grade. So they're like, if we want to get our guy that fits in this spot and that we feel is proper value, we're going to have to make a play on it. And so second round or a sixth round pick to move up 2 spots. Like I have a whole thing about trading up, and I wish they would actually do it more. And I think they should do it more now that they have a much better roster, because like I know Duke today even said like he hates trading away picks, but how many of these 6th and 7th round guys are going to actually make the team when you have a really good team? And wouldn't it make more sense to trade some of those to get like the Jets and the Eagles started doing that this year, like trading all these late round picks to get top 150 players,
and they're not good.
Right, but they're maximizing, like they're looking at this like there's not a number of 7th round picks that can make up for like a first round pick. It's just, it doesn't matter how many you have.
Right.
So like I hope the Bengals kind of take that philosophy of we see a guy that we want, that we feel fits us, and we know that it's more important to get him in the second round than it is to get somebody else and some guy at pick 230.
Yeah.
That because we have a really good team and a really deep roster is probably not making the team anyway. So what's the point in doing that?
We talked about it. We kind of talked about it a little bit last week. That like this draft, like I don't know that I was like overly excited about the Bengals draft. I mean, excited to the point where I'm like, yeah, like I want to see who we can add to the team. But it was with the caveat that like a lot of these guys that the Bengals are going to be taking this year are guys that are kind of like you know, they're going to be in the second string guys, the third string. They're going to be waiting their turn to get on the field, kind of a backup in a backup position. It's not the guys like kind of what you alluded to there, Dave. Like this isn't a guy that they're going to draft and they're be like, you are on the field regardless of what happens in the next like 6 months. Like you're going to be starting on Sundays, and you better get yourself in some sort of like position to do that, where you can bring some guys in who are quality guys, but you have the luxury of them developing in kind of the background while your roster of, a Super Bowl returning roster here is on the field doing what they do.
Yeah, I mean, we still have that Super Bowl roster, which is crazy because a lot of times teams go to the Super Bowl and it's on the backs of 30-plus-year-old veterans, right? Because they're experienced and they get them there. Our team's young, man. I mean, everybody's back. We lost a few guys here and there, but, we replaced them. You know what I mean?
Or you have guys that are, up for contract extensions and teams pay them out the ass because they went to the Super Bowl. They want to try to bring some of that mojo in, and we didn't have really any of that at that either. So, I mean, it's a great point. It's just drafts are only exciting if you've got a shit ton of picks or you're picking super premier players. It's not going to be exciting when you're picking 31st every round and you only end up with 6 players. From a fan's perspective, we're excited because we're Bengals fans, but from a draft, perspective, it's, it was just kind of as I like to call it, reading names off a card. And yet millions of people watch that happen, which is still very, very weird.
Yeah, absolutely. And it gives you the luxury having a team come back as full as it was last year, pretty much, to draft guys that will be there in 2 years. You know what I mean? Like Cam Taylor Britt, right? You're drafting so he can come in and the following year after this and maybe be that guy if he develops. You know what I mean?
Yep. So that brings us to the third round. The 95th pick overall was defensive lineman Zach Carter out of Florida, 6'4", 282 pounds. Dane Brugler had him as a 6th rounder. But I don't know. Most analysts have him as an end as opposed to a 3-tech that the Bengals are saying that they think he could be. He was very productive in college at Florida with 20 and a half tackles for loss in his last 24 games. What were your thoughts on this? Dave, I'll let you start with this one.
I figured this was about the time they would target the position. I was a little just surprised with the name because, like you said, Dane Brugler had him as a later round pick, and I think PFF had him just outside their top 200. But, the group as a whole was just so bad. And I hate to say that, because it's, nothing. I could never touch any of these guys and what they're doing, but they really went on the versatility again with him. Where I know a lot of fans were probably we want Perry and Winfrey from Oklahoma, who ended up going around later to the Browns. And Perry and Winfrey is a straight up one gap pass rush. He's allergic to stopping the run. He's home run or strikeout. And I just think they looked at it as this guy was productive in the SEC. He tested really well. He did a lot of his damage from the interior. And while he might not be exactly what it was just a weird defensive tackle class. And I think they just felt comfortable with him being able to be that 500, hopefully be that 500 snap guy behind BJ Hill. And maybe you move Cam Sample in there a little bit too. So maybe it's not a true 1-for-1 Larry, BJ Hill last year production to Zach Carter production. But the position makes sense. I think it's just weighing the differences in, and it'll be interesting too, because the Browns took Winfrey, the Steelers took DeMarvin Leal, the Ravens got Travis Jones, who can play some 3-tech, but is more of a nose. So it'll be interesting just to compare all of their careers, since they'll all be on teams, in the AFC North. But yeah, I think if you have a little squabble with it, I don't have a problem with it. Could you have gotten him around later? I don't know, but who would you who's the pick in his place? And then if he's not there in the 4th, then you're uber screwed at the defensive tackle position, where that and corner is arguably the spot that you had the most snaps for someone new to come in and play. So I don't really have a problem with taking him there. You
definitely needed an interior lineman, and the fact that he can kick in or play the outside. I think that gives him a little bit of versatility as opposed to some of the guys that you've already mentioned going to some of these other teams. But Benga, what were your thoughts when you saw Zach Carter, or even after you've read up a little bit more on him?
Yeah, and that's what it took, right? Like I after reading about him, because like I really didn't know the name, to be honest. But then I started reading about him and realizing like, oh, this guy can stop the run a little bit. You know what I mean? Oh, he can rotate 3-tech by taking. He can bounce outside a little bit. I mean, look at and like it almost like it fits the pattern of what we're doing in this draft, right? We got Dax Hill, right? He's versatile. He can play all these different positions. Mm-hmm. Why not do it with Carter, right? Yep. Like you bring in a guy like Winfrey, like David said, like he's just going to do one thing for you. You know what I mean? Like that's his job. It's always going to do. But a guy like Carter, while maybe he's not like super flashy and gonna like completely light it up, right? He's versatile. He can play multiple spots, and I like that. So
they definitely like their blue collar guys, right? The guys
sure.
that are grinders that yep. really work to earn their place. Yeah. And I think this kind of reminds me of when they took the defensive end that went to Seattle. I don't know why his name's evading me right now. Yes, thank you. When they drafted Dunlap, also out of Florida, when he came in and he had low grades because of his motor. And so they got a guy also from Florida who can play that outside edge, can also kick in. And so it should be interesting to see what Zach Carter contributes to this team.
Well, it's interesting after the fact. You learn a lot more after. I think the coaches and everybody is like, so relieved to be done that I don't know if they accidentally or what, but they're like a lot more open with their comments. And I thought it was interesting that Zach Carter said that he didn't have a lot of communication with the Bengals leading up to the draft. So he was kind of surprised when they took him. And yet they brought Perrion Winfrey in for one of their top 30 visits.
Yeah.
So like, what did they find? You know, you always wonder, like, what did you find out that you didn't like? Did it confirm something that you already thought? Did you find out something? Because they could have drafted either one of them.
Right. Took them off. What took them off their board? Right.
Yeah, and we'll get to it kind of with the next pick too. It was a very similar situation. Like, you know, I can get into that then, but like, it's just interesting when a guy comes in for a visit and then they take a guy that does, in our minds, very similar things. When they could take either one of them and they take a different person. So, it always makes you wonder what goes on behind the scenes.
Which does bring, unless you had anything to add, Jeff?
No.
Okay.
I'm excited about it. Anarumu is excited about it. So
yeah.
Which does bring us to our fourth round pick, though, as Dave kind of alluded to, 136 overall, offensive lineman Cordell Volson out of North Dakota State University.
The
Bisons
at 6'6", 315. It's a big boy. NFL.com had him as a 6th or 7th round pick. So again, according to somebody's mock draft, whatever, they have him as a reach. But he's listed as a right tackle. Pollock says he plans to move him to guard. Why? Because he likes his offensive linemen to have some shit on their neck, apparently.
In their neck.
In their neck.
In the actual neck.
I mean,
I want to know how it gets there, but
in the neck.
I don't know. He's got glass eaters and whatever. The things that come out of Frank Pollock's mouth just are.
I don't care what they eat or where the shit is. Just block better.
Right. So they plan to move him to guard, have him compete for the starting left guard spot, especially with what's come out recently with Jackson Carman. I'm not surprised that they have lined themselves up in a place to potentially move away from Jackson Carman, but they're high on his toughness, his work ethic. He's playing with an edge. Dave, I know you're going to probably have plenty to talk about with this, and you've already alluded to wanting to talk about this. So I'll let Bengo go first on this one.
You're fine, man. I don't know if you guys saw that video of him getting drafted where he's sitting at his barn with all his buddies and the pickup trucks and the flies and the hay everywhere, man. Like out of North Dakota State, 6'6", 3 pills plus, like that just screams I carry hay around for fun. Like that's that's what I want in a guard, is just like a big dude who will just beat you up. And I'm not going to touch the Carmen stuff. Sorry if you guys are wanting to get it, but
not at all.
Like I want a guy, regardless of that, to come in and compete with Carmen because regardless of what's going on and how people feel about Carmen, like he's just hasn't really been that hometown awesome story that comes in and just lights a fire under that position's butt. So like he needs somebody to come in and either make him better if all that crap clears up, or somebody to come in and say, hey man, sit on the bench because I'm a Bison and I'm going to block for this quarterback here. And I like Volson. I didn't know a damn thing about him. I don't think I've ever seen a North Dakota State game in my life. But as soon as I saw his corn-fed picture and that video of him in that big old barn getting drafted, and they said how big he was, I said, that's my guard. And I would trust Frank Pollock to watch my kids, man. I love that guy so much, dude. Anybody that's coming up with like saying shit like that, shit in your neck, glass here, he's my kind of people, man. So I trust him. And in Pollock, we trust. They saw something in Volson, so let's hope it works out.
I hope he's an actual Bison on the field, like just head down plowing people. But Dave, what you got?
So let's just go with Volson as the player first. Like definitely projects to guard, definitely has a positive athletic, like a positive RAS score when you put it in as a guard. Like he moves pretty well, gets out in space pretty well. Like he's, 4-time national champion. Now that is buoyed a little bit by with the COVID year and stuff. You get a sixth year, but still, 4-time national champion. Like he has all the measurables from 6'6", 315. But like watching this stuff and watching these press conferences and everything, and this has nothing to do with the report that came out about Jackson Carman, but this pick just screamed. I figured they would take an interior offensive lineman somewhere in the middle rounds. But this pick just screamed like, okay, from Frank Pollock's perspective, Mike Brown has a buddy-buddy relationship with Paul Alexander. Jackson Carman was Paul Alexander's guy last year. You guys listened to him. You picked him. Now it's my turn to pick a guy. Because you just listened to the stuff that he said, and it was like he was talking to Jackson Carman. Like, the prettiest and the best measurables and the 5-star recruits, they don't always make it. You got to have some shit in your neck. You got to be, you're working with men. They're trying to take your job. Like, here's a tissue. Go cry in the corner. And all we heard all season was like maturity, not prepared to be in the NFL. Is football that important to him? Like all these things. And this pick was just like, okay, I get to get my guy now. And yeah, he's not the prettiest. He didn't go to the biggest school and all of these things. But like he's got all of the other things that differentiate you. And he's also got a little bit of talent too. Yeah. So like, I'm not going to go out on a limb and say I would be stunned, but like if I'm making a prediction today, like I think Cordell Volson will be the starting left guard the first game of the season. Like
I agree.
It would not surprise me in the least. And
I think I'd be more surprised if he doesn't get that.
And that might be more of me being like I need to see it to believe it out of Jackson Carman, because they're going to give him every opportunity. A second round pick is going to get all of the chances until they prove that, like, you just can't do it. Like, we have to play this other guy. So it's not, there's going to be, and I like the philosophy of, like, yes, they addressed specific needs on the offensive line in free agency, but with that guard position, they're kind of just taking the Buffalo Bills philosophy the last couple of years of, let's just get a bunch of dudes and throw them out there and have a damn Royal Rumble and see who wins. And we'll be fine with whatever the outcome is because we feel good about the other guys being solid depth pieces. Like the whole offensive line as a whole unit is, we talk about the starters a lot, but like the whole group is much, much improved. And if all Volson does this entire year is keep Hakeem Adeniji off the field, he will be a wildly successful 4th round draft pick.
So we are approaching 10 o'clock. Bengo, I know you got some time limits. We got 2 picks left. Do you still want to stick around for both of them?
Let's do it. Yeah.
All right.
Oh, let me real quick. Same thing happened with the Zach Carter, Perion Winfrey thing with Cordell Volson. They brought in Jamari Salyer for a visit from Georgia, who I was a fan of, like, had a decorated career, played, all across the offensive line for Georgia, and he doesn't get drafted until the 6th round. So, like, they could have taken him in the 3rd, they could have taken him in the 4th, they could have taken him in the 5th, and they didn't take him, and nobody else did either. So it's like, what, visits aren't always about like learning more about guys you want. It's about a lot of it is about answering questions about guys you're not sure on.
Sure. Makes perfect sense. I mean, if you can bring a guy in and take him off your board, that's just as valuable as checking off the boxes to keep them on the board or move them up. So yeah. 5th round at 166 overall, defensive back Tyson Anderson out of Toledo, who I feel is probably the most intriguing pick to me. 6'2", 210. They traded up 8 spots, gave up a 7th round, and we know how much they valued the picks. But they did trade up to get him. He ran another guy running a sub 4.4 at 4.36. He was a team captain and a valedictorian in high school, so he's not a slouch on the books. He's said to have big football IQ. And again, you brought in another guy who could potentially take over at one of those safety spots. At 6'2", 210, though, you potentially could have him if you train him up right as one of your corners as well.
He's like your Von Bell replacement.
Yeah.
Your box safety, your big slot, your Trey Flowers, how they kind of use him with the tight ends. He's another guy in that kind of mold.
Well, it's 6'2", 210 for sure. He's definitely a Trey Flowers comp. So Dave, you already started a little bit of your breakdown on him. What you got?
900 special team snaps. Like
that's impressive.
5th round, like I kind of said earlier, like 5th round, 6th round. What are you going to get out of these guys? What do they do great? Like, I know a lot of fans are like, we didn't get a wide receiver. We didn't get I'd rather get a guy in the 5th round that's going to play every special team snap and make an impact there than maybe get on the field as a 4th wide receiver and only really get on the field if somebody gets hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see a ton of snaps for him defensively this year, but that's not I don't think that's an indictment on him. That's just, Brandon Wilson is probably almost assuredly cut. So he's in that safety rotation likely if guys get hurt, but just the athletic profile again, we keep going back to they had the 5th ranked athletic profile of the entire draft class in the NFL. So you're just looking at speed, athleticism, matching up with all these wide receivers in the way that these offenses are running, and you just can't. It's silly. It seems obvious to say you can't have enough speed. You can't. They clearly factor in intelligence, team chemistry, three-time captain, the master's degree in leadership. How do you even get a degree in leadership?
That's one of the easier ones. If I'm that was one I looked at.
I don't even know what kind of classes do you offer to get a master's in leadership?
I have one. It's an organizational leadership.
Yep, organizational leadership. It was between organizational leadership and communications for me. So I get it.
You have
Divorce.
You have a master's, Ed?
Oh no, it's bachelor's.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, my master's is in badassness.
This dude was he's just coming in hot. I have a voice and it needs to be heard. Hell yeah, man.
Thank you.
But yeah, from a football standpoint, just the measurables and stuff and the special teams element makes it in the 5th round. I feel a solid pick.
Did he pop in just to say that?
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
He tell us he had a leadership degree.
He was hurt that Dave was making his leadership degree out to be
No, I'm not. Hey, get a degree, get a master's. I just don't know. What are the? I'd love to know. What are the classes you take?
Here's coming back.
There's some classes that we took.
Yeah, he can't even remember.
Nope.
All right.
Emotional intelligence classes. Some other stuff.
Good work, Ed. But you see again with this pick how much emphasis they put on those kinds of things, being the team captain. being, he was a high school valedictorian and has, he's working he's almost done with his master's degree. Like the culture shift of the Bengals is like, we saw it kind of start, and it's like, this is what it is. Like, we're not going after, the edgy guys that are, have some issues maybe on the side, whatever. Like, these are all leadership guys like that are melding together and are coming together with like one purpose and able to execute in that fashion. And I think it's great to see, and it kind of, makes you a little more proud to be a fan of that organization. But I like this pick, another fast guy to put on the back end of the defense.
What you got, Bengal?
Yeah, it's another guy that I had to read about, to be honest. I mean, Toledo, it's cool. It's an Ohio school. I did a tryout at Toledo way back in the day to try to walk on there. They didn't take me. Jokes on them. Look at me now. But I think like the speed and the leadership and all these buzzwords is just what we're trying to fill this locker room with. And the 900 special team snaps, and Dave already covered it. Like, what do you want? Like a receiver that's like, hey, come on, man, Jamar's winded, go block for a play, right? Like, is that what you want? Or do you want a guy that maybe is going to get out there on special teams and, I don't know, knock the ball out of somebody's hands and we get a turnover, right? And then all of a sudden we've got great field position and it's time to go. Like, I like the pick after reading, right? And it's the speed, man. The speed. We are going to be so damn fast this year.
Agreed, especially on special teams.
If
nothing else, especially on special teams.
Yeah, because him and Taylor Britt are going to play a lot of special teams.
Well, yeah. Who's going to be returning?
Chris Evans.
I said on Twitter I was going to do it. Yeah. Is it going to be Chris Evans, you think, Dave?
Chris Evans on kickoffs, and right now I'd say Trent Taylor on punts.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I like that. I think that's all Trent Taylor's going to do this year.
As long as he doesn't drop the ball twice like Darius Phillips, I really don't care what he does.
Yeah.
God,
Same.
that was awful.
So 7th round, 252 overall. The Bengals' final pick was defensive end Jeff Gunter out of Coastal Carolina, stands at 6'4", 260. He's also fast, ran a 4.7.
Yeah.
A pass rush specialist. They're calling him like a Joseph Osai Jr.
Mm-hmm.
22, and he's a junior himself. I mean, he hasn't seen a snap, an NFL snap, like actual NFL game snap. But at 22 and a half tackles for loss, 13 sacks his last 2 college seasons. Coastal Carolina's been good. So, of course, Geoff likes the fact that his name is also Jeff.
Not a bad name.
So, Bengo, what you got on Jeff Gunter?
I like him, man, and not just because he was one of the first ones to respond to me on Twitter.
I wondered if you were going to bring that up.
Yeah. No, his profile, he reminded me of CJ Uzomah a little bit. That's why I immediately kind of latched
because
on
he was
him,
like laying
The
down.
funny pose, but I like his size, and I like that 4.7. And like a lot of times, it's like a 7th round. I mean, 7th round. It was 7th round, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Because we lost our 6th. A 7th round guy is kind of like, is he going to be there? Is he not? Like, we need guys. We need bodies to rush, right? And I feel like he has a real shot to come in and actually maybe be a rotational piece, right? I mean, shit. We got Hubbard, Hendrickson's here, Osai coming back. So essentially, we've got 2 rookie pass rushers, right? So like, I don't see him as like the prototypical 7th round guy that's like at the end of the season you're like, oh yeah, I remember that guy. I think he has a shot to actually rotate in.
Dave?
I agree. I liked it. 7th round, you're looking for traits, and production, and he's got both of them. I mean, and I'll never fault him for taking an edge player. So
the 7th round is totally for the high risk, low reward player, right?
And I don't even think he's that. Like I'm kind of surprised he was still there. Like he was a guy I looked at in the 6th, 7th round when I was looking at things. But like he's got the traits. He's not one of these like tweener dudes that's 6'2", 220. He's got all the traits. He's got the athletic testing. He was productive. And in the 7th round, like Bengo said, like so many times you just draft these guys in the 7th round and it's just like a throwaway pick.
Yeah.
Like you look at him and you're like, there's no way this guy's making the team. Like he's not athletic or he didn't produce in college. Like, so it's like, why this one, and we'll see with last year's 7th rounder too, Wyatt Huber, because he got hurt. And I love just taking edge guys. And in Gunter's case, like he's a dude. Like I knew who he was. I've seen him play at Coastal. Part of the reason I love him was because he dog walked Zach Wilson on at the interception at the end of the first half when they played BYU.
On that short week,
kept pile driving him into the ground. So we know he's got a little fire in his belly. But yeah, I mean, like 7th round, get a dude that is athletic and has shown that he can do something and see what happens at a position that you can never have too many guys that can get to the quarterback.
All right, so before we go into any undrafted free agent signings, I'm going to give you one more out here, Bengo, if you got to go. But I do want your final assessment on the actual draft before you go.
Yeah, I do got to get, but like I like if you look at a lot of the overall draft grades this year that the like big name, I guess companies, whatever networks put out, like they all seem like really, really high this year. There was a lot of like A minuses. I think, I don't know if it was like PF. I don't know which one it was, but like the average was like A minus. But I think we're a B plus. Like I think we did a solid job. Like you're not picking Jamar Chase at 31. Do you know what I mean? Like we identified a need and then we're able to go, okay, that guy kind of meets our need and he's the best guy on the board, right? Like look at Dax Hill. Like I think we did a good job. I really like the draft. I'm partial to DBs, like I said already, and I'm excited to see these guys get out there and contribute any way they can, right? And I know we traded away 2 picks, but like, did we though? Wyatt Hubert, Joseph Osai coming back, boom. There's your fill in for the 2 picks. So I don't know. I loved it. I'm super biased being a kind of a super fan anyway, but
right.
I love it, man. I'm excited to see these guys contribute.
Last question before you go, I promise. Are Pickett and Pickens the new Burrow?
Man, all right. You got till 10:45 because I'll sit here and talk crap.
You mean tall Dalton?
Yeah, here's Kenny Pickens throwing the football.
Did you guys see the thing on Twitter of the meme of like Kenny Pickett holding an AirPod?
Yeah,
the AirPod.
Oh my god, that was like,
oh my god! And then the 3-minute highlight reel of Pickens committing penalties that'll ruin a game for any other team.
He's a Steeler, right? Like totally a Steeler.
Dude, he's a dude. We better hope that he doesn't. We better hope he doesn't get his head stuff figured out.
Oh yeah, but that guy know he's good. But
he's the best wide receiver to come out of Georgia since AJ from a pure wide receiver standpoint.
He's playing with men now, not the college boys. So we'll see. All right, hey, I appreciate you guys having me on. I love you. Give me a call anytime. I'll come on and talk about whatever the hell you want. I got Bearcats hat on today too, so we can talk Bearcats too, man.
All right, thanks for joining us, Bengalorian. We do appreciate it, sir.
Yes, sir.
See you, buddy.
There's the AirPod.
Kenny Pickett holding the AirPod.
That is.
Are his hands really like unusually small for a quarterback?
They're unusually small for like a normal human. Like I'm 5'7", and I have small hands, and I did the whole like measuring thing, and my hands are bigger than his.
That's wild.
Like put the tape measure down and spread your hand out like you're at the combine, and yeah, it's
all right. So are there any undrafted free agents?
Oh God.
Goodness. Are there any undrafted free agents that you're excited about, Dave?
I don't even know. One, Justin Rigg, because he went to my high school.
Okay.
Other than that,
well, and he happens to be a tight end where, again, I know I brought up earlier that who's going to be returning the kickoffs and punt returns. Good Lord, man.
I don't know that that's ever going to get old.
No. But like,
did they bring anybody in who's really going to compete, like a la Avonta's Perfect or a la?
I mean, I can't. I think I'd be talking out my ass if I said one way or the other. Like, there's some guys that I'm maybe a little intrigued by, but like, do I see him making the roster? I don't know. Like Carson Wells had a nice career at Colorado as an edge guy. The Ben Brown interior lineman from Ole Miss, just because we know we're going to keep the Burger King commercial when that's a classic.
And it's from the Florence Y'alls. They've been on a roll, on a social media roll.
I like how they just go at the Reds.
Yes.
Yep.
Like I love it. That's my total dream is for the Bengals to just finally be like, let's really own this town, and they just go at the Reds.
Ugh.
But no, I mean, I don't know. Like, they got a pretty damn good roster already. I have a feeling they're gonna still play a little bit in free agency. There's still a lot of pretty solid players available.
Are they going to bring in like a Will Fuller V or I don't know if I'd
go that far. Emmanuel Sanders is a name
that's another one
would interest me. He's on the older side, and that's why he's still available. But
isn't
like
Keelan Cole still available?
Keelan
as well?
Cole definitely. I'm pretty surprised he's not.
Well,
on
he
the
was
team.
a name that was associated with the Bengals even at the start of free agency.
Yeah. So, maybe wide receiver, maybe a tight end, but nobody that, unless circumstances get crazy, that you would think would make a huge impact. But they went pretty hard. It's funny. They signed looks like they're going to sign two other kids from Coastal, their wide receiver and their running back. The wide receiver had a hell of a year. He had like 1,200 yards and 7 touchdowns or something this year. But there's always that one guy that shows that.
They did sign him already. Yeah.
Javon Hiley and Shamari Jones. Yeah.
Right.
There's always one or two guys that grab your attention, but I mean, it's a pretty deep roster. It's a pretty young roster. They're going to have to be pretty damn good to make final cuts.
Are you surprised Kevin Huber re-signed for another year?
Not after they didn't draft a punter.
I was going to say, were you surprised that they didn't draft a punter somewhere in there?
I think when the punter run went in I think it was the fourth round. I think they were not going to take one that early. If it started around the 5th or 6th round, then maybe. But
not compared to what they took in the 4th round.
Well,
right?
after they started trading away picks, I was like, "There's no way they're going to do that."
Trade away picks and then also
take a punter, right?
Take a punter.
So, how would you grade it, Dave? As you are one for the, I'm sure you've read all the grades, as many as you could find anyway, and who people's sleeper picks are. So, what is your best steal in the draft, and what would you grade this particular draft?
I would give it just a solid B for the fact that, unfortunately, it's more of nothing against what they did and about where they were drafting. Like, you're just not going to get in a lot of opportunities to get impact guys. So, I mean, the steal of their draft to me is Dax Hill. Like, to get him in the first round, I just did not expect it to happen. There was not really another situation where there was like an obvious guy that fell, 30 spots and just fell into their lap. So when you only take 6 players and you're picking at the back of rounds and you're not picking impact players because you're not picking like immediate starters because you don't need to, I can't give it like a high end grade. I guess I could say B+ if Volson wins the left guard job, because that means you'll have drafted your top 4 picks will play a lot,
significant time,
even if they're just in a reserve role.
I mean, but then you go back to like Tyson Anderson, who's probably going to get a lot of snaps on special teams.
Oh, for sure.
So if you want to go all the way back that far, you'd say like 5 of your 6 picks there, and then who knows what you get out of Gunter.
Yeah, I just can't give him like a A or something when
absolutely.
When you look at like a Jets draft that they get Sauce, Garrett Wilson, and
Jermaine Johnson
in the first round, like that's what an A is to me. Like, gotta keep the homerism down a little bit. Still a good draft, but
no, I agree with the B. That's where I kind of came to my conclusion was a B, and it all came back to what we discussed last week, and then like when you were here the first time, that this wasn't a draft. I know we kind of hit on all these points already, but it's not a draft that you're going to be able to take a Sauce Gardner without trading every other pick that you have to
giving up your future. Yeah,
mortgaging all that to get up there to take somebody like that, and you don't need to. You don't. The team that they've got is obviously a very good squad already, and you need to address some issues that they had, and Aaron pointed that out. They identified the things that they needed and where they needed to backfill, and potentially somebody that they could grab a little bit later in the draft that may very well take over at left guard, may be able to fill in there as the starter. So you get that, and they're safe picks. They're all pretty safe picks, I would think, for what they needed and who they needed to fill in for. So
yeah, definitely no huge risks.
No, a good solid B. And when you have a team that is coming off of a Super Bowl year, a good solid B draft is just about all you need to make sure that you can at least stay at a competitive level. Look, we all know that it's very difficult to make it back to the Super Bowl ever. Sometimes teams make it and then never go back for 10 years, 12, 15 years, whatever. But to be able to be competitive during the season, give yourself a shot to have a run in the playoffs, that's all you need to do is have a nice solid B of a draft and fill in the holes that you've got.
And it's a B draft following an A-, maybe a B+ free agency period.
Yeah.
The only thing you didn't get that were glaring needs, I guess, were maybe another cornerback, which still could be addressed, as it looks like the Giants cornerback may be cut this week. And that's somebody. What's his name?
James Bradbury.
Yeah, Bradbury. I know that there's been some links there as far as interest from Lou Anarumo. Shocker. And the only
shit is that.
The only other position of needs that I guess I was surprised they didn't address in the draft were maybe tight end and receiver. But again, there's certainly some receiver options out there that would still improve your squad. Corner, again, like we said, it's already been talked about. Tight end, I don't know, outside of Hunter or Hayden Hurst, that you really need to do much more.
They just don't really. I mean, they don't. I think Hayden Hurst is going to fit them better than CJ did.
Yeah,
and they just don't really utilize the tight end. They run more 11 personnel than almost anybody in the league. So it's
not often in that jumbo package that you would want.
If you've got 3 elite receivers and a really good running back, like how many throws are you really going to give the tight end? Like, why do you need to allocate, high draft picks or high free agent dollars to a position that you're just not going to throw the ball to that often?
Yeah, makes sense. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I definitely appreciate what they did in the draft and what they did in free agency even more. So I guess we're kind of at a hurry up and wait as we wait for, I know voluntary training camps did start. Jesse Bates did not show up, which should surprise nobody as he was a franchise tag. And as you're kind of worried about, I don't have a contract past this year. Why am I going to do it?
He hasn't even signed it yet. Like, I wouldn't be doing anything if I was him.
No. And there's no reason to, really.
No.
So I think that's anybody who's trying to make a big deal about that. It's much ado about nothing, if I'm being, in my opinion. Outside of that, though, anything else you got on the draft and or free agency in regards to the Bengals?
No, I'm ready for football season. Is it here yet?
I will say Dave also called in his little thing 2 weeks ago that there would be no Bearcats taken by the Bengals.
Nail on the head. And you kind of knew that the last hope was over in the third round. Once they took an interior defensive lineman, you knew that Brooks was not going to be a guy that fit. There's no way you take both Zach Carter and Curtis Brooks.
Unlikely.
As a late pick. So, didn't seem to be an option there. The only other option after that pick was maybe a Kobe, but once he was gone in the fourth, game over. Moving on to the Bearcats draft, as this will be the last segment that we keep Dave around for, and then we probably have like a 2-minute segment on the Reds, and then get out of here. But so 9 Bearcats picked. Jesus.
I do have after we talk Bearcats, I do have a Reds question that I want to ask all you guys.
All right. We'll keep you around for that then. So 9 Bearcats picked, the highest Bearcat picked in history. First Bearcat picked in the first round in 50 years. This was a Bearcats fan's dream draft. And they finished with the 3rd most picks of any school in the entire draft, outdone only by Georgia and LSU, I believe.
Yes.
So what were your thoughts as the weekend played out, as you removed yourself from being a Bengals fan and put your Bearcats hat on and just kind of watch this in the eyes of a Bearcats fan, Dave?
Well, I mean, it's obviously awesome. Like, you get,
fucking incredible.
Be around these dudes, and it's been a ridiculous run for this crop of guys for as many years as they've been here. I mean, Curtis Brooks being here when Tuberville was here, to Jerome Ford, the last couple of years. But it's obviously awesome weekend for all those guys for the program. I think the thing that I will remember just specifically was like watching the draft on round 2, but not like, or was it 2 or 3? I don't remember. Was Cook second round or third round?
Second round.
So like I'm watching it, but I'm not like super paying attention. And I see his name pop up, and I was like, "Oh yes!" And then I cheered like the Bengals just drafted Jamar Chase or something.
Right?
I was just so fired up for him, like, because I just wasn't sure how his draft was going to end up, because he didn't do any of the pre-draft stuff.
Yeah,
so I didn't know if that meant like people told him not to do it. Like, hey, we like you. We're good with your tape. We're good with your medicals checked out. Like, you don't need to go on all these visits and do all this stuff. Or was it like, were all these teams nervous? But, that moment, Sauce Gardner telling the owner of Johnson & Johnson that what goes into his sauce chain, I will never stop laughing at that. Like, I don't think Sauce realizes how rich the Jets owner is.
Nor does he care. He doesn't care.
He has a Louis Vuitton man satchel standing outside of a private plane talking to Woody Johnson about what sauce he puts into his necklace. It's just his like
newest adornment.
It's just one of the most surreal things you can watch when you like take all of the elements into account. But yeah, I mean, it's just I love seeing like all the clips of the behind the scenes stuff of the phone calls and that stuff, and I know, like, I want all these guys to go as early as possible, obviously, but like I feel like Dez's situation is, he's going to look back on it hopefully and be like, I'm glad that this is the way that it played out, because I think it's a great spot for him.
So I do want to talk about each of these guys individually.
Okay, sure, we can do
all
that.
Right. So we'll go by. Do you want to go by order that you had them in, or do you want to go
whatever you want? Like, just go by order they got drafted.
Order they got. All right.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Order they got drafted. So Sauce Gardner, tell me about, like, basically just where they were picked and how it fits. Like, how you think they will fit.
I mean, Sauce
in that
was
situation.
A top 5 draft pick, no matter what. Like, I mean, I think there's teams that had him as high as the first or second overall player on their board. I mean, if you saw the Jets draft room when they called him, you could tell they wanted him bad and were very happy that he was there.
I mean, so I was like screaming Sauce into the phone like as loud as possible.
I mean,
so was the head coach.
Yeah,
Sala coached Richard Sherman, and that's like a comp that is given to Sauce a lot. So I mean,
Richard Sherman said he was the best,
and
best cornerback in the
total
draft.
the Jets have a lot of smaller corners, but now they have their bigger corner that can match up with
Anyone.
Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hills, the Jamar Chase, all the guys you're going to get in the AFC. So, I think the fit works. I think Sauce is going to I've never seen a dude, too, like, universally, when people would tweet something out about him, the mentions 100% were like, got to get him on our team. Whoever that team was, like, love him. Like, so, I think he's just going to, hopefully do great things in New York and keep building on what he's done.
So with Sauce being the highest drafted Bearcat ever, we talked about this a little bit on the draft show that you showed up in and out on as you were under the weather. But what does this mean for the Bearcats to have a guy go 4th overall? And do you think he has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder because he went after Stingley, where that only really came to fruition over the course of 2 or 3 days before the draft, that all of a sudden Stingley was targeting a number 3 overall pick?
I'm sure he's got a chip. You always see these guys, whether it was Tom Brady or these other dudes that are like, I remember all 13 wide receivers that were drafted. You're like,
yeah.
I think that's just like, hey, whatever you need to do to get yourself motivated, like, do it. Like, the Chad Johnson and his DB list and all those things. So, like, yeah, I wouldn't be shocked at all if Sauce felt, slighted or whatever. But from the program standpoint, like, just more free advertising, more, and that, Jeffrey kind of brings it up. Like, I didn't want Sauce to go to Houston. Like, that place is a mess. So, like, yeah, it would be great to say, like, you got drafted 3rd, but, like, does the organization that drafts you know how to build a defense? Do they fire defensive coordinators every year? Do they, so, like, the fit matters so much more. Like, I think fans look at draft picks, and when they bust out, they just automatically, like, say, well, this guy was just a bust. And they don't ever, or I shouldn't say don't ever, but very rarely go, like, yeah, he was put in a terrible situation. Like, he was never going to succeed. Like, they didn't develop him. They did all these things around him. Like, that matters so much more. So,
like the Texans' first pick when they became an expansion team in Carr, where
they just didn't put anything around the guy, like,
ever.
You look at, like, the Browns and everybody that's got a Browns jersey that has 700 quarterback names, and
right.
I think
for a
every
while there, the
offensive
Browns
coordinator
fired. I'm not a Baker Mayfield apologist, but, like, the guy's had 4 offensive coordinators in 4 years. Like, obviously he needs to do some things on his own, but, like, that certainly isn't helping him.
Oh,
played through injury and it hurt him.
So
no pun intended.
The program, like, we don't see half the stuff that they're sending out to the kids and the things that they're doing right now. Sauce has made a name for the program especially from a DB standpoint. Like, dudes know him, and that's not even just like Detroit. Like, they know who he is. Yeah. So and that's the thing is, like, you could tell a kid about your guys and that they're good or not, but, like, these kids are all over the country, and they know he was a bad dude at UC, and then they just saw him get drafted in the top 5. So,
it's the thing that I brought up last week, though. Like, when I guess it wasn't even last week. It was the first round of the draft we did on the BCJ thing. Being able to sit down in a kid's living room and say, look, like, because to them stars mean the world, everything, and to sit down with a kid and say, we had this guy, he was a 3-star, or he was a 2-star, or a guy like what I think Cook was, like, had no stars coming out of high school.
Right? One offer, and it was to Howard.
Like, so, like, we had these guys, and we brought them in, and they, listened to the plan. They stayed the course, and through their own determination, and then the path that we were able to guide them on, they went ahead and got drafted. And now, in a couple years, you look at some of the production some of these guys have in the NFL, and you're like, look at these guys, because we've been hanging on the Kelsey bandwagon for a very long time. Of like, look at this guy and now we can say, look at all of these guys.
Right.
Hopefully down the line, they're all productive enough that you can point to them. But at least the fact that they were given the opportunity to be drafted and have the chance in the NFL to have some success.
Well, Saleh, the head coach for the Jets, being a defensive guy, I think that's only going to play to Sauce's hand, and it should be really interesting to see what he ends up doing in the biggest city in outside of LA. So that should be a really good fit. I don't think that city's going to swallow him up the way it may some other people in New York. Brian Cook ends up being the second Bearcat picked.
Alec Pierce.
Oh, touche. I did skip over him. Alec Pierce ends up being the second Bearcat picked. Goes to the Colts, and what may be the best fit for any Bearcat selected. So what were your thoughts when he went there in the second round to the Colts?
Yeah, you had this like little run of receivers kind of start there when the Patriots, I don't know what, doing very Patriot-y things when they took Tyquan Thornton from Baylor ahead of Alec Pierce and Sky Moore, and I think maybe even one other receiver. There was like a real fast run of like 3 or 4 receivers at 50, 52, 53, something like that. But they needed a vertical threat. They have Michael Pittman Jr. and not a whole lot else. So, he's going to get thrust in there, and, he's definitely got some things to work on with his route tree. But, from a size, speed, physicality standpoint and a go up and get it standpoint, like, there's not going to be many dudes better in this draft. And I think it fits him. I think it fits him from a personality standpoint. I think he'll feel comfortable there.
Yeah. Not far for his parents to have
I was gonna say not far from home. And he's got a pretty good quarterback there to throw him the ball.
Exactly. You go into a situation that they got a really nice offensive line, they got a fantastic running back, and now they have a pretty damn good veteran quarterback too. So, I think the Colts are definitely feeling like they, last year ended with a pretty sour taste in their mouth, and they've still got a really damn good team. So I think another a different type of situation than Sauce finds himself, but I think one that, again, I just want to see these guys go to good spots for them, where they can maximize their careers. And it does, would you rather go 36th or 50th? But the spot at 50 is just like a way better fit for you. So
what did you think of the Jordy Nelson comps that were everywhere?
I'm laughing at your Mike Evans comp. That's absolutely ridiculous.
I think Jordy Nelson's a lazy comp.
Well, because you'd say it's lazy because they're both white. I say it's pretty spot on because they're like very, very similar wide receivers. How they win, their measurables, like. It is a pretty damn good comparison.
We'll see when he's putting up Mike Evans numbers. We'll see. We'll see.
I heard that on the PvP. I laughed out loud.
That's fine.
I hope he is, but like Mike Evans, 6'5", almost 230, was like a top 15 pick. So,
like I said, we'll see. I don't like the automatic going to the white guy. Like, oh, he really reminds me of Brandon Stokely because he plays for the Colts. Like, come on, man, get out of here.
They don't remind it. Those two don't remind me of each other at all. Brandon Stokely's like 5'9".
I thought Jordy Nelson was lazy. Anyway, Brian Cook goes in the second round. Which, let's talk about this dude who was a Howard player for 2 years with no other offers. And then Luke Fickell brings him into the fold, and he ends up playing his breakout game was the Peach Bowl against Georgia.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he's a starter this past season, and he makes the absolute most of it to where he ends up are the Chiefs. Can we confirm that the Chiefs are the Super Bowl contender, like the Super Bowl favorites for the AFC?
Betting odds, I think, have the Bills first. then maybe the Chiefs, then
The
Bengals, Ravensy, something like that. Chargers maybe somewhere in there.
In any case,
I personally would put the Bill. If I was a betting favorite, I would say Bills, then probably Chiefs.
He's going to end up being the Honey Badgers replacement. And holy shit, this dude's career path has been insane.
He's a second-round pick. They're expecting him to either start or be
have impact.
I can't pretend to know the Chiefs depth chart. I know Honey Badger's gone and they signed Justin Reed, but Justin Reed's just a dude to me. So
a jag.
Yeah,
just a guy.
He's a jag, just a guy. You're a second round pick. They're expecting you to come in and either be a starter or compete for a starting job, and depending on what they like to do. I know the Chiefs like to run a lot of press man, but depending on what they do, play a lot. So again, another good situation. We know how much Andy Reid likes UC players, and you take them in the second round. They're expecting something out of you.
Just so impressive for that guy. And just, I don't know how often you got to talk to him. I never really got to talk to him, but just listening to his interviews, how much this means to this kid and how much he fought to be on the field as a Bearcat. And I can't see that changing anytime soon for him.
Oh, no, that's not changing. He's probably, it's not fair to everybody else, but he might be the toughest guy that I can remember playing for UC.
You just got, but you look at, it's been mentioned obviously already on here, but you look at the fact that he's a guy that comes out of high school with the one offer, and it wasn't it was one offer to, Alabama. It was, to Howard, and then,
or even a Coastal or something, it wasn't a Sun Belt, it was Howard.
Yeah, it was. So a guy who probably, not probably, the majority of the football world was he can play at the college level, but he's not. And then he comes here. He has a
came in as a corner,
a pretty good career here at UC, and now he's going to a top 2-3 AFC team, and he's going to have impact. It's a guy that they're we wanted him so bad. We took him in the second round and
couldn't do anything in the actual NFL combine. Couldn't do anything at pro day because of the injuries.
Yeah.
Or to Dave's point, maybe somebody told him no, you good. Man.
No, you're good.
Your tape was everything. Everyone knows what you bring to the table.
To his toughness and kind of a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, you still want to have him confirm what you see on the tape. So I'm not sure that, I probably don't mean it in they told him shut it down you hear about in the NBA draft process.
Yeah.
Where they, but I did find it interesting though, the longer it went on, he still didn't do anything. So I was how is this going to affect him in the draft? And it clearly didn't.
Yeah.
Or it did, and maybe he was higher.
Yeah, I still think he kind of, that was a pretty good sweet spot for him.
Yeah. To go to
pretty
the
solid
Chiefs.
Value for the Chiefs.
So then finally, on the NFL draft show that we did live on BCJ, we had Gino lined up to talk, but we opted out of having Gino on the show because Gino was at Desmond Ritter's draft party, and it seemed weird to bring Gino on with Des not being drafted. So Des hears his name finally in the third round, day 2, and he goes to the Atlanta Falcons, where he with RG3 on campus, he ended up randomly picking these Atlanta Falcons socks.
Yeah.
Out of the random numbers he had in his head. I don't know if they were random or not, but whatever.
He said he went with 3 for
the soccer player,
Ali Sidlowski.
Yeah,
that passed away.
So Des ends up going to the Atlanta Falcons. I think it's a home run fit for Desmond Ridder behind Marcus Mariota. What do you say, Dave?
I agree. I think he will start at some point this year.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I have there's only one thing that worries me about it is that they might still be so bad that they have like a top 3 or 4 pick next year, and
CJ Stroud
picking him in the third round is not going to keep them from picking Bryce Young or CJ Stroud if they're in a position to do that. That's
the difference is Dez has a year under his belt.
Right. Like hopefully he will have gotten the opportunity to play and show them that I should be the guy. But my concern is like, if things go really bad and he also like doesn't play, then that's a realistic thing that could happen. Cause like their roster still stinks big time.
Like get lost in the shuffle kind of thing.
Yeah. But like,
Alabama still has some really good defensive guys that they could take early.
Oh yeah, Will Anderson for sure.
Right.
But like I said, build up anytime we talked about it, I said that all of these quarterbacks were second round guys. And then as we got closer to the draft, I said that I thought he would go first because that's just the way that it sounded.
Yeah.
Am I surprised that him and Malik Willis didn't make it to the third or didn't go until the third? I am a little bit surprised. But I'm not totally surprised because usually quarterbacks are drafted a half a round to a round earlier than any other player that you grade out the same way would be drafted. So the NFL maybe just finally like put proper value on quarterbacks. And when you didn't have a group that were, like last year or even Burrow's year, like, I had a second round grade on him. So is it that outlandish that the NFL saw them as third rounders? Like, I don't think it's that far off. I just think that they finally realized for this class in particular, like, we don't need to overdraft these guys. And there's an abundance of defensive players. Like the Falcons' first 2 picks, I absolutely loved. Like, love Drake London, love Arnold Ebiketie. Like, I wouldn't have taken Dez over either of those 2 guys.
And maybe that's where Dez makes his haul, though, is the fact that you have a stud at wide receiver, you have a freak at tight end, and you bring
like
him
if I'm a quarterback, like I want to go into a situation where those elements are already in place, and they're just adding pieces.
Yeah. Does he beat out Mariota early on? Like I'm talking
I wouldn't say early on. Marcus has quite a long injury history, so
it's only a matter of time.
It feels like it's only a matter of time before he gets hurt. But I also wouldn't be surprised if things aren't going. If things aren't going well,
why not
halfway
change?
Through the season? It's like, well, let's put him in and see what happens.
I think it depends on when their bye week is too, right?
It could.
That's oftentimes when you see a quarterback change made. So,
but you have a fairly new general manager and head coach, so you would think that they have, a little bit of a runway, that it's not like if it's a bad season, then everybody gets fired and the new guy comes in and, well, we don't like him, so we're going to get a new quarterback type situation. But
a point that Chad brought up last night is the fact that Mariota and Dez are so similar as far as comps go that you don't have to change the offense really for one from the other.
I talked about for a long time, like, not to brag or anything, but like Atlanta was where I wanted him to go because of the way Arthur Smith calls offense and the way that he'll use the rollout. He'll use him getting the ball to the tight end. Like, he'll do the things in Dez's skill set that will help him be a really good player.
And let's not forget that Dez is not. It's not foreign to him to come in the middle of a game and just never give the ball back to another quarterback.
Fair enough.
I heard, he was going into these meetings with a plan laid out, telling the coaching staffs how he planned on beating out a veteran and, like, earning the trust or like whatever of the locker room.
That's fantastic.
The other good thing,
so you're saying my dude had a 30, 60, and 90-day plan?
He said, what I'm going to do in my first 100 days is come in and take Marcus Mariota's job.
That's something they teach you in that organizational leadership degree program. Yeah.
That's good, Ed.
Yeah.
But you've got a guy in Des. He's not, a 21, 20, you know what I mean? Like he's got a little bit of experience on it. He's a true veteran quarterback coming in, and yes, he hasn't played in the NFL yet. We know that. But I think that he's going to be just fine in Atlanta. And it's one of those things, like you said, like, would you rather go, in the top 10, or do you want to, go somewhere where it's going to, fit you, top 5, or go somewhere where it's going to fit you the best, and not go somewhere like, like if he gets drafted by the Bengals, let's say, and ends up sitting, like, he's going to sit behind Joe Burrow for
right.
That right. He's going to hold a clipboard, and that's not what he wants to do.
So Emmanuel Sanders taken with the 100th pick of the NFL draft and made 5 Bearcats in 100 picks, averaging 1 every 20 picks, which was absolutely insane. What did you think about the fit for Emmanuel going to the Arizona Cardinals?
I honestly don't know a ton about the Cardinals other than Steve Keim, their general manager, makes some really, really weird trades and draft picks.
Just real quick on Des. That was from me, Dave, because I asked Des, I said, what are these teams saying to you? Because it was, Tennessee, Atlanta, like all these places that had a veteran quarterback, kind of a stopgap guy. And I was like, what do you say? And he was like, I told him, if you draft me, I'm going to be your starter by year 2, because that's what I do. Like, maybe you need me to sit a year and learn, and you got, $15, $20 million invested in this guy. I get that. But by the first snap of year 2, or maybe, the third series of year 2, as it were, he told these GMs straight up, like, I'm going to win your job and be your quarterback soon. Like, just draft me knowing that.
I think it was
I'm coming in to be your quarterback soon.
Like
when
Jeremy Fowler from ESPN, I remember, had a hit and was just talking about some of the stuff that he was saying that was similar to that, laying out like Ed said, here's my 30, 60, 90 plan for beating out your quarterback.
Right.
Well, when they talked to him, I want to say it was ESPN, because I think I was watching ESPN. They went in to talk to him after he was, he was actually still on the phone with the Falcons, I think, when they went to him. But the intensity in his face during the interview,
so mad.
You could just tell. And then he was like, I'm not leaving Atlanta until I get a Super Bowl. So
I believe him.
And that's a guy that's saying that you're like, well, I saw what he did here, so
I believe him, yo.
Go ahead.
I don't know why, but I do.
Somebody needs to go ahead and start planning out a Super Bowl parade route down there in Atlanta and figure out how they're going to get that around all that awful traffic.
Oh. All right, you can come back in then. I was just going to say, that's a conversation I literally had with Des one day during spring football, because I was like, what are these meetings like, and what are they asking you? And he was like, they're asking me if I mind coming in behind a veteran. And I was like, no, that's fine. I'll come in behind a veteran, but by year 2, I'm going to be your starting quarterback. So just prepare. Just know that that's how this is going to happen.
Just prepare to take on a $30 million dead money cap hit.
Right.
cost the organization. But Maje, I'm just glad that it doesn't appear like that his super weird pre-draft process affected him a ton.
The birth of his child and losing weight because he was sick.
Then putting it all back on. It was just not doing anything at the pro day after having the weird combine. None of it made any sense to me, but it doesn't appear that it hurt him in a huge way. Maybe he would have gone in the 3rd round if he ran a little bit faster. But I can't really. I don't know what their defense is and their depth chart. I know they lost Chandler Jones, so they have at least one possible. I don't know who they replaced him with, but I mean, fourth round pick. I mean, they're going to ask him.
He was a third round guy.
Was it still in the third?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Then yeah,
you had him as a fourth round in your predictions early on.
Okay.
So
they're going to ask him to come in and be a situational pass rusher at worst to start and see what happens from there.
Did I say fourth round when I announced it?
I get confused with the comp picks and everything.
It was on the cusp.
Yeah, because the Bengals had 95 or 93 or 95, and then so 100. Yeah, 100 would have been like a comp pick at the end of the third round. Because then Kobe was 109, so that was the beginning of the fourth.
Well, and that takes us to the Kobe pick. So Kobe ends up in Seattle, where he claims that he always looked up to the Legion of Boom and what they were able to do with Richard Sherman and Cam Chancellor, and I always forget the third one.
Yep. Okay.
Yep. We've all apparently forgotten the third one.
Byron Maxwell.
No.
Yeah, he was there.
Was he?
Yeah. Not Vernon Maxwell.
That's who I was thinking. I was like, he's a Rocket.
He played for the Rockets.
Earl Thomas.
Earl Thomas. Yeah.
Earl Thomas. That's the one I forget. So Kobe ends up though in Seattle, and I think it's fantastic fit.
They drafted two corners, so they pretty close to each other. So they obviously have a pretty big corner need. Two guys that are like polar opposites too. Kobe's like the technician, the
Thorpe Award winner,
and then the other guy they took the Tariq Tariq Cohen, or that's the Bears guy, but the one dude from Texas San Antonio that's like 6'4", ran a 4.26, like was the converted wide receiver, like the total project corner, and then the 5-year conference, All-American type guy. So, but again, like he's just Kobe's limitations from a speed standpoint are going to keep him, on one side of the field and in certain systems, and he's going to work his ass off. So you're just going to have to wait and see how the speed deficiency, I think, affects him. But again, like solid organization, had a corner need, so he's going to get enough. He's going to get an opportunity. Like still fourth round. Like we talk about when you have these guys that go earlier, like fourth round is still like
legit
expected to come in and contribute as a rookie.
Make some waves. So Kobe was the fourth pick of the fourth round. Jerome Ford was the fourth pick of the fifth round, and then Darian Beavers was the fourth pick of the sixth round. So Ford is probably the spot that perplexed me the most.
I think they have to be looking for a speed element at that position, because they have three pretty damn good dudes, and I've seen some stuff that like maybe they're going to move on from Kareem Hunt.
Well, he does have a contract. Both him and Chubb. Have they extended Chubb yet?
I don't think so.
I think they're both on contract years, but I think
they're not re-signing both of them.
Everyone's on the understanding that Nick Chubb is the guy that you go with, as his wear and tear has been minimal because of Kareem Hunt
and Dearness Johnson. So I just think speed element, maybe best player available at that point in time. They like to run the ball, so I mean, if they do move Chubb, or if they do move Hunt, or something happens there, he's going to get touches. Like the Browns have an offensive line, we know they want to run the ball. So again, fit, like, okay, if I'm going to come in and be a backup running back, like, put me to a place where I have chances to get like legit carries. Like, it'd make no sense for the Bengals to draft him. Like, he's not going to get carries. They don't.
If you were cutting Samaje Perine,
you're still not getting that many carries.
Not many, no, but it would make more sense.
Yeah,
than Cleveland.
But as a fifth round pick, I'd be like, why are we taking a third running back unless we're going to do something to the roster that you don't know about at that time?
So I don't know. Just that one was the one that made me scratch my head, I guess.
Makes me sad to see him go to Cleveland.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm happy he got drafted, but I wish.
Hopefully, I don't have to cheer for him to fumble.
He's
Like
there with
exactly.
Hudson. He is there with Hudson, so at least there's a guy there that he has an immediate connection with. But yeah, it should be interesting to see what Cleveland does with. I can't imagine you go into game 1 with 4 running backs on your roster.
No, I mean he's got to fight to make the team. He might.
But I think he'll land on his feet regardless.
Yeah, he might be a practice squad guy. So
we'll see. But then Darren Beavers to the Giants again. Like I said, is the 4th pick of the 6th round. So, what were your thoughts on the Darren Beavers fit?
I'm worried about Beavers, and
because he also took Micah McFadden, who everybody knows
you stole my damn joke, Aaron.
God's gift, right?
I mean, you take the greatest player in Indiana University football history at the same position.
Same round, wasn't it?
I don't know.
McFadden may have been 5th round.
I mean, I don't know if Beavers can make the team fighting Micah McFadden for a spot.
They're very different.
The greatest player in Indiana University football history.
I don't know if your listeners will find that as
Micah McFadden was so good that the head coach disowned his own son.
Wouldn't let his own son carve the turkey at Thanksgiving.
It wouldn't let him eat at the adult table.
At the adult table, he made him sit at the fold-out table behind over in the kids' room.
That's a callback joke if I've ever heard.
Yes.
Oh, it's a joke that in Bearcat Journal history will never die.
No.
I can always pull that bad boy out on Twitter, which I did over the weekend.
Well done.
But he's this is kind of one. Excuse me, like Majay with the Cardinals that I just don't know a ton about. I know that Wink Martindale is their DC who was with Baltimore, so he'll probably have Darren blitzing a ton.
Yeah.
The GM and head coach came from Buffalo when they have turned things around recently, so I think from an organization standpoint, they're going in the right direction. The quarterback still stinks.
Their head coach was a defensive guy.
No, Brian Daboll is an offensive guy.
Is he?
Oh yeah, he was Alabama's OC a couple years ago before he went to Buffalo's OC.
I guess I just look at him and I think he's a defensive guy.
Yeah, short little round dude with a shaved head.
Yeah.
But I think good organization, trending in the right direction. Got to figure out quarterback and some stuff on offense that the last regime kind of royally effed up. But I thought he'd go higher. There was a lot of buzz about him after the Senior Bowl, and that kind of just seemed to just die.
Yeah.
I didn't hear anything about him leading up to the draft itself. So, he'll have a fight to make a roster, but, we'll see how it goes.
And then Curtis Brooks goes in the 6th round to the Indianapolis Colts. He was the last drafted Bearcat before we get to the handful, not even a full handful, but a couple of UDFAs. But Brooks to the Colts.
Super pumped about that one too. I kind of had the same reaction as Cook when I saw him get drafted. Just because the guy has worked so hard.
Yeah,
came back for a 6th year, was dominant. I mean, you look at PFF, he was the best defensive tackle in college football from a scoring, grading type standpoint. Obviously he's going to fight his athletic and physical limitations, and I have no idea what the Colts do defensively or who they have on the defensive line, but
he'll also work his ass off, though.
Right. You get drafted in the 6th round, though. That's the thing. Is does he make the team? I don't know, but he's probably gonna make the practice squad, especially with the practice squads expanded to 17 guys the last couple of years. So 6th and 7th round picks anymore aren't just cast out of the league.
Yeah.
If they don't make the team like they kind of used to be.
So kudos to him again. Not far from here anyway.
And he's got Alec Pierce with him up there. So
and Michael Young Jr.
Yeah, like we said with Alec, just another good organization.
Well, they came down and did some like super secret spy work.
Private workout with Dez, Alec, and Mike.
Yeah, where they were just down here to check on Dez and work Dez out, but that was where they fell in love with Alec Pierce. That was where Michael Young was also there, and they ended up falling in love with Michael Young, who ended up being an undrafted free agent.
Yeah,
to pick up
it's a good spot for him. Like when you're an undrafted free agent, you can either go for the money or you can go for the spot you have the best chance to make the team. And I don't think he's going to make the team, but like their receiver group isn't anything outside of Pearson, Michael, and Michael Pittman. Like you have Paris Campbell, who's
always injured, who
still hasn't done anything. You got I don't even know if they still have T.Y. Hilton.
He's almost out of the league at this point.
He almost retired like the last 3 years.
Yeah, and
then you got like just a bunch of other dudes. Like so, he's got we'll see. He's got a shot.
So we covered Michael Young then. Also an undrafted free agent pickup. The Michael Young, I believe, was just a camp invite. He's not actually.
No, they signed him.
Did they actually sign him?
Yeah, they signed him.
The other sign was the Saints signed Joel DeBlanco at linebacker. Yeah,
awesome. I didn't see that.
Yeah, he was signed almost immediately as soon as the draft was over. He was the first Bearcat off the board. So the robot Joel DeBlanco goes to the Saints. I think it's an excellent opportunity for him. What were your thoughts, Dave?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I know Pete Werner from Ohio State had a really good rookie year as a linebacker. But you just want an opportunity. Like you want to, and guys are going to get it now. You get way more of an opportunity now than you used to. Starters and stuff are playing in way less of the preseason games. Your practice squad rosters are twice the size that they used to be. So you're getting more chances to show off your ability, and that's all you want. Like,
yeah.
And maybe this is a bit of homerism because we are Bearcats fans. The guys that have been on this team the last few years, obviously, and then like this group of guys that went through the draft process this year, and then some of them that are these undrafted. I feel like they have a little bit of that extra edge of like they were always like. Anytime you looked in the the media on sport, like there wasn't a lot of like rooting for the Bengal or the Bearcats guys. Like they understand what it means to scratch and claw and fight for every last thing that they earned, any of the recognition they got, like all of that. I feel like they've got a little extra chip on their shoulder.
Do we dare say that they all have a little bit of shit in their neck?
They might have some shit in their neck,
I still don't know what that means.
Yeah, some of those guys might be glass eaters. They might. I don't know, but like
I know that one of my friends gets made fun of because they say he looks like he has a pack of hot dogs in his neck. But is that like, the same thing?
I got a buddy. I got a buddy that they call hot dog neck. So I think that's a little different. But no, I feel like these guys are they might all be the quintessential first guy in, last guy out in the facility kind of guys.
They're definitely gonna make. They're definitely gonna make it where these guys gotta figure out a reason to cut me.
And the last one that I haven't retweeted anything about because I can't bring myself to do it. Vinny McConnell lands with the Pittsburgh Steelers as a camp invite.
Yeah, I think he's gonna try. I think maybe as the center.
Considering there were only 5-6 centers taken in the whole draft, I mean there is a dearth of need.
Yeah,
at the center position.
I just don't think he has the size to kind of fit in anywhere else. He's always going to be in that low 300s. And you're looking at guards now that are, sick. Just look at the couple of guys the Bengals.
They're Lorenz Metz.
Yeah, the guard used to be too tall, and now the Bengals have a couple 6'5", 6'6" guys, 315, 330. I think that's his best bet, and see what happens.
Well, like I said, I made that joke last night, but again, I can't bring myself to retweet anything having to do with Pittsburgh Steelers because fuck them. But
That's how you really feel, Aaron.
Outside of that, I think it was a hell of a year for the Bearcats in the draft, even as undrafted free agents. Kudos to all these dudes just making some hay and fantastic.
So this is something that like I was thinking about the other day, and it's like you go down this list of like the teams, right, that our guys from UC went to, and you know the good majority of these guys are going to catch on and play, and it kind of makes the NFL season a little more intriguing outside of the Bengals, right? Like,
certainly makes fantasy football more interesting,
right? Obviously, like the Bearcats, it's not like every year we go in and they've got 10 guys drafted and they're going all over the league, and you're just kind of like you're watching a game, you go, oh yeah. Now we had 9 guys. We had 9 guys go, and they're spread out across the league. None of them are on the Bengals. I tweeted kind of a joke that my closet was going to look like a sporting goods memorabilia store, because I am planning on there's a pretty decent supplier of NFL jerseys at good rates that I use, and probably they look good.
Helps out the players none.
Well, you know what? I don't have that kind of money to help out the players at $150 a pop. So
fair enough.
I'll support them at least. But it's just kind of neat to be able to, like watch games throughout the season next year, and see Sauce out there, Pierce or Ritter.
Absolutely.
And Ritter, he'll be in the red and black still. So.
Well, Dave, that brings us to our quick Reds talk.
All right, I got a question for you guys.
Quick hitter Reds section.
So I just saw that they lost again. Big shocker.
3-100, I think they are now.
3-20. It is May 3rd.
Brandon Sale.
They are 3-20. Okay, here's my question to you guys. The Bengals and Bearcats combined to win 26 games this year.
This is you tweeted this out earlier, right?
I tweeted it to Mo to see if he would throw it up or something. What day in the calendar will the Reds eclipse 26 wins?
God.
It'll be in July.
I think it's after the All-Star break.
September.
So they need
September call-ups.
They would need 24 wins. They're on pace for 21 in the entire season.
So
they would need to outpace their current projection.
It's so bad.
It'll be mid-July.
I am not a Reds fan, but I when you're this bad, I kind of feel bad for the fans that are Reds fans. But I'm actually more into the Reds now than I've ever been in my life because of Phil Castellini's absurd comments, and I just want to see how shitty it gets.
Well, I mean,
every day they keep losing, and it's just where are you gonna go?
They're putting they're putting Votto on the COVID IL with symptoms and saying it's day to day. They're taking Jonathan India and putting him back on and saying he won't be back for 2 to 3 weeks, but it's just precautionary. What are you doing? The
video yesterday of them dropping 3 straight foul balls was the quintessential.
Oh God, I saw that. That was
okay,
horrible.
but the one you can't really help because it hit the netting. You can't.
I know.
That one.
I didn't even.
I know.
I didn't even watch the whole thing, but I saw.
It was just funny
because why would you?
Just the commentators being like that sums up the Reds season.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's because the last one, the first 2, you can excuse. It hit the netting, you can't stop that from happening. The other one was Brandon Drury almost flipped into the camera well. But the last one was a lazy pop up right in front of the mound, and they're all standing there, and they looked like
who's got it?
They looked like my son's 7U coaches pitch team when the ball gets hit in the air and they're all just running around. They're standing in a circle and they just stick their glove out like the ball's gonna land and it hit the ground and they were like, Oh,
I mean, this season, Joey Votto, for the first time ever, I believe, popped up to what was it the first baseman or the third baseman?
is
He
popped up
in the
he popped up to the pitch. No, he popped up to the pitcher for the first time. Yeah,
for the first time in his entire career.
Well, last year, the year before was the first time he popped out to the first baseman.
Yeah.
So like he's been hitting. I mean, you get this long in, you're gonna hit those milestones, but
baseball just has to be the worst sport to like have a total shit season at the very beginning too, because you're like, we still have 140 of these fucking games to go.
Okay, well, I got a question for you guys. Does it make you mad that we actually won 3 games this season? Because I would actually like to see them go.
Oh yeah, I'll be like 0-23,
just winless.
Yeah, like
for the whole season.
The fact that you split that series with Atlanta and even gave Phil a platform to be like, look at this series.
I know.
How bad do those other teams feel? Like we're one of the Reds' 3 wins. What the hell happened that day?
Well, like the Braves. The Braves, like they split the opening series of the season.
No,
they were 2-2.
Like,
they were 500.
I'm a Mets fan, so I was like, hell yeah, Reds, way to win 2 games. Like, good job.
I want the Netflix documentary 2022, the year the Reds didn't win. Like, that's what I want. Like,
well, I mean, they might as well do it. I think the last team that like played this bad was like the Orioles.
1899.
And like, was it? No. I'm talking about like full season. Like the Orioles lost 119 games. The record is the Mets, I think, in 1962.
The 1962 Mets.
No team has started this bad since 1899.
Okay, but that team was like the Cleveland Spiders, and they started like 1-19. So like the Reds can't surpass them.
The worst start in National League history.
But it's that bad.
Did you guys hear the news coming out GABP tonight?
What?
I was on Twitter. It says,
are you gonna put Phil in a bag up again?
No, it says my fellow this is actually from Castellini_Phil on Twitter. My fellow Cincinnati Reds fans, we have some horrible news about the Toyota Tundra in the outfield. It has been repossessed due to non-payment. Once again, aligning resources.
That's just so that guy doesn't shit in it.
The guy that was gonna
take a shit. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. So like I was talking about that the other day with some guys, and if this person that said that has a plan to climb that stack out there, like if there's a way to do it, once somebody starts climbing that, it's not like they can rush somebody to the top to intercept him. Like they would also have to climb after this person who is climbing up there to shit in the bed of the truck.
None of those ushers are getting up that thing.
No, if that's your intent, you're definitely doing it. You're getting away with it.
No,
until you come down.
It doesn't look like it's that hard to scale.
Okay.
I mean, it looks. I mean, you have to almost be Spider-Man. But still, like if you have some if some guy shows up out there with some sort of grappling hook that he's able to get
those suction cup things,
he's like don't like all the way up.
I'm going to the game on 4th of July because that's when they play the Mets. I can't wait to see what ticket prices are then.
That might be when they get to 24 wins. So I mean, I said like middle of July. That it is awful.
They need 27 wins.
Oh,
you get a good tall guy and give you a boost.
That's a real big ask, Dave. That's a real big ask for a team to win 27 games out of 162. Like,
I mean, of all the times for the Bengals to be awesome and have like a good social media presence and like actually get their heads out of their asses for once in like 3 decades. Coincides with like the Reds having like
fair. They made the playoffs under Marvin like 5 out of 7
I'm just saying like the organization though still wasn't looked at like it was now. Like
all right.
The on-field product was fun, but it's like it's totally different now.
But the fan base fan base then wasn't like gelled with the ownership of the Bengals. Like there was still hate for the ownership.
We weren't invested into the players like we are like.
Yeah,
Dave, look,
exactly.
I mean, my co-hosts are wearing his and his pullovers.
Exactly.
That's right. You've been waiting this whole time to make that joke, Aaron. God.
It's a good one there.
I told Ed he couldn't wear it. He had to take it off because he already wore his.
You can't wear the same thing. I didn't get the memo. I'd have worn mine.
I know. Like we could all had our. We all could have had one if Ed would have called Aaron the first time he went up to the outlets
Accurate.
But when I went up there, they only had size extra small or whatever for the
But
one
yeah,
Aaron wanted.
the old Reds higher ups have got to be like, God damn it! Like,
I mean,
not
it's
only do
awful,
we suck, but the other team in town's like really damn good now.
and on top of that,
Pittsburgh's better than them.
On top of that, you had the Bearcats have the season they had. So like, you have a city that's like like are totally invested in winners, and then they just like
shit the bed.
I mean, it's worse than shitting the bed, Aaron. This is well beyond Amber Heard.
Yeah, this is like the beginning of major league type stuff. Like, this guy's dead. Well, then cross him off.
Yeah, like it's
unbelievable.
And there was a team somewhere close by that won like this like fake title that they like give out to.
Yeah, no one cares.
Yeah, sorry, Greg.
I'm not sorry. Not sorry.
Red shit the tundra. I mean, I don't know where. Honestly, like you look at it and where like. You can't even, I don't even know where you go. Like, okay, maybe like the Dayton Dragons are 15-5, but like, where does this team go to like, what do you do to even fix this?
Well, that's
where are they going to go?
Baseball that's like so different. It's like the Bengals can fix things in 2 drafts by drafting 2 people. Can change. Now, obviously, there's other big parts that went into that, but like they drafted a quarterback, they drafted a receiver, they got things figured out. Like baseball doesn't allow you to do that.
Right.
And the Reds aren't going to be in a position to just go buy players to do it. So like, how does this like all of a sudden next year is like, oh yeah, we can totally make the playoffs.
Well, like even their like slightly transparent, not even really plan that they like come out with like, oh, we want to like home grow our own talent and we're gonna bring it up through the farm system. And yeah, they've got a decently ranked farm system and whatnot, but like.
Everybody says that when their major league team stinks.
It's all unproven.
But exactly, that's what prospects are. Like, they just have the potential to be good, and sometimes you can perform at the single A and the double A and the triple A level, and then you get up to the major leagues and you face guys. You face Bryce Harper and Nick Castellanos and Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani and these guys.
Yeah,
and suddenly
it's
you realize,
very funny as like a Mets fan living in Cincinnati, where like I don't give a rip about prospects. I'm like trade them, buy guys, like
all
of them.
Where like in Cincinnati, it's always like, oh, we can't trade this guy. He might be good in 2026, or he might be selling insurance. Like at least you can get like a Major League Baseball player that actually has like hit a Major League Baseball pitcher.
Is that Jake?
That's always been my thing. It's like in baseball, like this, you've got to be willing to spend money. Like Aaron has beat this drum forever. That like stop crying poor. Like either make it happen or find somebody to sell the team to that will. And I'm tired of this. Like, oh, well, if they sell the team, they might leave the city. Well, that's fine, because I don't want to watch a team that wins 10 games in the first 100 of the season. I don't want to watch that. I don't care if they're the Reds. I'm one of the biggest Reds fans ever, and I just don't. I don't want to sit here and watch a team that is losing every night and occasionally puts together. They haven't won a series all year. They split a series in Atlanta.
3 games, Jeff.
3.
Like they went 99 innings without having the lead at the end of the inning.
That's
99.
We can't talk anymore.
That's wild.
The Bengals won as many games in January.
And that was the hardest part of the Bengals schedule.
Accurate. Ed, do you by chance have a minute of wrestling?
No, I tried to watch.
All right, moving on.
Okay, thanks, Ed.
That's fine. All right,
way to go.
All right, boys, I'm gonna head to bed.
Well, that's actually gonna wrap it up anyway.
Thank you very much for having me. I had a blast.
We appreciate you, Dave. I know this is way past your bedtime, but we appreciate you staying up a little bit later to do draft talk with us and give us not just the Bengals but also the Bearcats. We again appreciate Bengalorian for jumping on with us without the mask, mind you. And that was another episode of Pardon the Punctuation. So for my boys, Ed and Jeff, we will see you next week, Tuesday, 9:15. Be here.
Bye.
Ba-da-ba.